This is a short video to give you instruction about the oral quiz that you're going to take Tuesday. Originally, I was planning it for Thursday. Then it turns out that I will get my first COVID shot that morning. Therefore, I won't be available, and I want to just move on with this thing. So here is an example or a series of examples of what the format of the quiz will be like. You are going, first of all, I am going to send you to make available to you a sound file. And that sound file will contain questions. You will listen to that. You can interrupt the sound file anytime you want. You prepare your answers in Italian. And then when you're ready, you're going to record yourself. Give the answers in order. Now, do it in one take only. Don't cut, don't edit, keep going. Now, I know that for some might be more difficult than for others. In any case, the questions are questions that you have heard, should have heard zillions of times. All the material is available already in the various sound files in all the various pages of the textbook. Therefore, I am going to take the material that you have already been, that you are familiar with. I give you an example. Section 1. Section 1, I'm going to ask questions in English, and you will give the answer in Italian. So you will hear a question in English. You can write down the question if you want, and you can, at the end of the list of questions, you can go back, prepare your answers, so that when the time to record begins, you will be prepared. Again, don't do it section by section. Don't record in chunks. Prepare all your answers at once and then record them at once. So here is an example. This is page 1 of the textbook. I will start with numero uno. What is your name? You know how to answer that. When you record your answers, you will say numero uno in Italian. My name is blah, blah, blah. So my question in this section will be in English, and then your answer will be in Italian. Example, again, numero uno, what is your name? Numero due, are you a woman? Numero tre, are you a man? What you will do is you give only the answers in Italian. So let's go down, and I will ask something like, are you Italian? Are you American? Are you beautiful? Are you famous? You know that English does not have the masculine and the feminine. In Italian, it does. So if I'm asking, if you want to answer the question, are you beautiful? When you answer, you will say, I am beautiful, and you will use either the masculine or the feminine form according to who you are. So English allows me to ask a generic question, but you will answer using the specific gender that applies. Let's say that we continue and I'll ask something like, you know this expression, right? Io abito in Italia. That means I live in Italy. My question could be something like, what city do you live in? You don't know how to ask this question in Italian because we haven't gotten there. But you know how to give the answer, right? I live in Brooklyn. I live in New York. I could ask, what country do you live in? Well, you know how to say, you don't know how to ask the question, doesn't matter because the question is in English to you. You will answer in Italian. This is rather important because it could connect back to the very first section. I will ask probably questions like, what is your father's name? What is your mother's name? What is your best friend's name? And you can choose either masculine or feminine. So again, I will ask the question, in this case, in English, and you provide the answer in Italian. Back to page 1, where we were at the beginning. Let me go down, and let's say I'm going to ask something like, is David Italian? Or is Venere Italian? And then you'll provide the answer. Now, let's say that I'm going to ask, do you work? You should know how to say, I work or I don't work. I could ask, what city do you work in? Again, you don't know how to formulate the question in English, in Italian, but you know how to answer. And that's the answer that you're going to give. Another example of the same questions. Are you beautiful? Are you famous? Are you Italian? Are you American? Let's go down here, and all of this stuff is covered. Let's say that we're coming to section 2. Section 2, I will ask something like, numero 1. Che cosa vuol dire buongiorno? Your answer in Italian will be buongiorno, blah blah blah, and then the meaning. Che cosa vuol dire famoso? And then you will give the answer. Che cosa vuol dire something like this? I'm highlighting it. Che cosa vuol dire anch'io? And you will answer anch'io, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, and the answer to that question. Okay, the next section would be, let's look at this box here. Come si dice lesson in italiano? And you will answer in italiano, lesson, and you give the answer. Come si dice practice in italiano? And then you give the answer. So we already have 3 sections that you should, with material that you're familiar with and that you will be able to find in the text. We're going to come to the verbs. Again, it is possible I will add this section, but I haven't done it yet. So it will also depend on how much time I want the exercise, the quiz to take. So let's say that I'm asking you to conjugate the verb essere. And I will tell you, now conjugate essere. Or I could start with the question, che cosa vuol dire essere? Or come si dice to be in italiano? You'll give the answer and then you'll say conjugate the verb. And what you do, you conjugate the verb. Now, whenever it comes to the third person, all you need is one person. It's not necessary that you say lui è, lei è, or lui, lei è. Just pick one and it will be sufficient. It will be very easy for me to detect whether you are reading because you depend on the script that you have in front of you, or if you have memorized and you are using the, the clues, but you have it in your head, because the fluency will be different. There will be no hesitation, and it's going to be obvious whether you know the verb conjugation or not. Fonetica. Fonetica. I could ask you to do the telephone spelling of your name, of your Italian name, or your American name, whatever you want to call it, your official name. Okay. Or I could ask you to do it of your last name. You have a chart, you prepare, and then when the moment comes, you're going to pronounce the names of the cities whose initials correspond to the various letters of your name. You know this, we've done it several times, you have done it several times, so this should not be a surprise. With Fonetica, one of the possible exercises will be something that we have done in a quiz before. I will give you the sound, and then you will find a word in Italian that contains the syllable that represents the sound. So if I say ca, you will go down the list. You will, for each of the sounds, find a word. And then when you give the answer, you'll say ca, casa, che, orchestra. Use the simple words that I have adopted in the many examples that you will find in either in the videos or on the text homepages. So the sound casa, como, cubo, chilometro, orchestra. I could ask you to read the numbers from 11 to 20, for instance. Or I could ask you, what year were you born? And you know how to say, I was born in Italiano. You should know how to say, I was born, because it was part of the things we've done. So, again, when you give the answer in Italian, you have a choice of masculine, feminine. You know what preposition to use, and then how do you give the number of the year in Italian. How old are you? And you should be able also to say, we have done avere, I am such age. We have done all of those things. All of this is stuff that we have covered. And here you have the verb avere. So, che cosa vuol dire avere? How do you say, come si dice, to have in Italiano? Conjugate. And then you read it. And again, you pick only one, right? Lui ha, lei ha, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Espressioni idiomatiche. Let's say that I'm asking the question, how are you? And then you answer. And then I may ask a questions like, how do you feel today? Now, you know the difference between come va and come stai, right? So the answer to how are you? You pick your answers. But if I ask, how do you feel today? You know that this is a serious question, right? How are you doing physically, emotionally? I mean, if I say, how do you feel? It will elicit this type of answer because of the difference between come va and come stai. Here is a very simple, okay, here's an example of vocabulary. Come si dice il libro? Che cosa vuol dire il libro? Che cosa vuol dire la penna? Che cosa vuol dire la porta? Come si dice? And then you pick, and I pick objects and you will be able to tell. We did the saluti. This is also stuff that you know. How do you say hello on the phone? These are words that we did. Parole nuove, new words. I am not going to ask about the articles because these are just previews. We haven't really gone into that. Here is, you have, this is page B, another summary or another set of examples about this. Here is something that I may ask. I give you a word in the masculine and you repeat it in the feminine, for instance. This is from feminine to masculine. I will say, okay, now you do the masculine, and I'll give you donna, and you will write, or you will say, bambina, ragazza,